February was a really hard month to make any money in the stock market. Pretty much everybody was red in their portfolio, so hopefully this month is a whole lot better. And to help you out, today I'm going to be giving you the 3 best stocks to buy for March 2021. Hi y'all, my name is Greg and I make videos about the stock market and options trading. Today I'm going to be talking about the 3 best stocks to buy for March 2021. So to break this video down for you, I'm going to go over the recent updates from these different companies, followed up by the upcoming catalysts for their stock and what could make them move by a ton. And then finally I'm going to be talking about the risks and the rewards that would come with buying into these different stocks. But before we get into it, if you enjoy this type of content, you want me to make more videos like this where I talk about my top stock picks, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. With that out of the way, let's get into the stocks. Now this first stock that I'm going to talk about might come off as a big surprise. BNGO. If you watched my first video on BNGO, I said I wasn't going to buy any shares and I still haven't, but they're just too hot to ignore this month with their upcoming catalysts. We'll talk about that later, but for now, let's get into the news updates. After watching the news on this company over the past couple of months, their PR team has put out 28 different press releases in the past 2 months, which is absolutely insane. 26 press releases is a lot to go over, so we're just going to cover the ones that I think are most important. First was the closing of 2 underwritten share offerings. In the past 2 months, they closed 2 underwritten public share offerings, and this gave them a boatload of cash to work with. But it's also important to keep in mind, because they offer these new shares up, they're going to increase their liabilities because shareholders are part of a company's liabilities when it comes to their balance sheets. Regardless though, more cash is great because it allows them to diversify their technologies, maybe acquire a new company, or adapt Sapphire to where it can do other types of clinical testing. That's definitely something that I'll be looking out for on their next balance sheet, how much money they spend on R&D, and if they're actually trying to improve their technologies. I'd imagine a lot of their money right now is going towards marketing since their PR team has been on fire recently, posting new press releases pretty much every other day. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. We'll just have to wait and see. Another big news piece that came out recently was the largest hospital diagnostic lab in Canada piloting Sapphire. Now, piloting basically means they're taking Sapphire on a test ride to see if it works in their workflow. The current cytogenetic workflow in this lab is about 30 years old, so it's definitely a little bit antiqued and it's in need of an update. And this just proves that Sapphire is really good at what it does, which is cytogenetics. But there is something that I found to be a little bit misleading within this article. Genomics said that LMP, this clinical lab, performs 25 million tests per year. And a lot of people on Reddit, Twitter, and here on YouTube took this as Sapphire is going to be performing all of those 25 million tests per year, which just won't be the case, unfortunately. As we talked about earlier, Sapphire is supposed to replace the current cytogenetic workflow for this lab. Currently, the cytogenetics lab at this hospital performs 30,000 tests per year, which is a lot less than the 25 million that was stated in this article. Still though, if they are able to replace the entire cytogenetic workflow for this clinical lab, that's 30,000 tests per year that they weren't doing before, and with their target price of $100 per test, that's $3 million in revenue each year from just one hospital. And I want to cover one last piece of news before we get into the catalyst for BNGO this month, which is this headline. Genomics Sapphire proves essential in creating the most comprehensive, ethnically diverse collection of genome variation ever completed. And this might sound familiar to you. That's because it is. They posted a PR on the study back in December, and I'll have both the publications linked down below, but essentially they're the same paper. But this time, they were published in Science. Now this is actually a really big deal. Before, a lot of the research that was being done on Sapphire was being published into preprint, which was non-peer reviewed. But Science, on the other hand, is peer reviewed, and it's one of the most renowned science publications in the world. Science has an impact factor of 41, putting them in the number 10 spot of most highly rated science publications in the world. In theory, this should give this study a lot of validity, and it should give Sapphire some more validity as well. While Genomics Sapphire is still pretty niche in its use cases, a lot of people like the stock, and for good reason. It's gone up by a ton and there's a lot more room for upside on their upcoming earnings report. Looking at BNGO's earnings history, they were able to improve their earnings per share from -30 cents to -8 cents just within a couple of quarters. And there's a lot of speculation right now that they might be able to turn a profit on their next earnings report. But looking at their quarter-to-quarter improvements, they only increased their earnings per share by 0.8 cents. But they improved their revenue by almost double. This was likely due to them offering up software as a service for the Sapphire product. And with all the new labs that they've made their way into over the last quarter, I'd expect their revenue to grow even more, but they're gonna have to bring down their costs significantly in order to turn profit. I would expect their expenses to grow because they've been advertising their product and advertising their stock a whole ton with their PR team, posting 28 press releases over the last 2 months. And I think that this amount of spending that they're doing right now might stop them from turning a profit for this quarter. Now, I'm expecting somewhere in the range of a -3 cent earnings per share to a +2 cent earnings per share, but I think the likelihood of them turning a profit is pretty low. But if they do, a lot of investors are watching for this and their stock could fly up. But if they miss these expectations, their stock could really fall hard. Personally, I think this is a really good short-term trade, and I just opened a strangle on BNGO. And if you want to know the next trade I make, I post all of my positions over on my Discord, which will be linked down in the pinned comment below. And if you're looking for the next big long-term investment, this next stock is for you. I made a video on Fulgent recently talking about what the company does and how they have some of the best financials in the genomics space. Right now I am holding almost 21 shares that I bought for an average price of $105, and with the recent news, I've been buying even more. Fulgent just teamed up with BioIQ partners to add variant detection to current illness testing programs. And you've probably heard there's been a few mutations of the illness that have been spreading, mostly coming from the UK, but also from other parts of the world that have developed different strands of the illness. Well, this new testing solution from Fulgent and BioIQ should be able to detect these new variations of the illness. If they're able to detect these new variations of the illness, they should be able to pass this information on to health officials, which should help to stop the spread of these new variants. And that pretty much wraps up all the news for Fulgent, unfortunately. I talked about this in my last video, how their PR team needs to step their game up and take advantage of this hot market. I even reached out to their investor relation team trying to get an interview with them, but I haven't got any response. Regardless though, I still believe in this company, and I think they're going to be making a huge move this month with their earnings report coming out on March 4th. The same day as Bionano Genomics, so this is going to be a really big day for genomic stocks. Since Fulgent has been making a ton of money off the illness testing, we saw record numbers of new cases towards the end of the year for 2020. I think this is going to be a huge quarter of growth. Just looking at the daily case chart from Google, it looks like there's probably 3 or maybe even 4 times as many cases in October through December than there were from July through August. So possibly this means that Fulgent might experience more than 4x growth in their revenue this quarter. Last quarter, they posted revenue of $101 million. So if they're able to 4x this will be over $400 million in revenue. If that's the case, I wouldn't expect their overall earnings to increase by 4x, since they probably had to increase their operating expenses. But more realistically, I'm expecting an earnings per share somewhere between $4 to $6, which is a 2 to 3x growth quarter over quarter. Honestly, if they posted anything above a $4 earnings per share, I'd be super happy, but I know this isn't going to last forever. Since a lot of their revenue right now comes from illness testing and we don't know how long the illness is going to be around for, there's a lot of uncertainty around that, but hopefully they're able to take all this profits and reinvest this to increase their revenue streams. Another company that's been growing their revenue like crazy recently has been HIMX. HIMX is a virtual reality company, which is a sector I haven't talked a lot about here on the channel, but ARK Invest thinks this could be a 130x opportunity for the entire sector. Now, this isn't to say that HIMX specifically is going to 130x, but I do think there's a lot of opportunity in the stock considering how cheap it is right now. From quarter to quarter, according to their last earnings, they improved their revenue from $240 million to $272 million, and they increased their earnings per share from 4.9 cents to 20 cent EPS. That's a 5-fold increase. That's nothing to scoff at. If they can keep up this rate of innovation and create new efficiencies, this could be a huge opportunity. They've already somewhat proven themselves by turning a profit for the last 5 quarters in a row, and if they continue to increase their earnings per share, this stock could really blow up. Now, they don't have a lot of news on the company, unfortunately, just like with Fulgent, but they are going to be presenting at the Baird 2021 Vehicle Technology and Mobility Conference. HIMX is going to be showing off their new technologies to interested investors, and honestly, I'm pretty curious about this. I'm probably going to be showing up to this conference to see what they have to offer for vehicle and mobility technology. As of right now, all I know is they're a virtual reality company making fabless semiconductors, but if they're able to put these chips into electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, this could be a really big opportunity. You've probably heard a lot about the supply issues with semiconductors lately and the government finally stepping in to help subsidize this, and if HIMX is able to get just a little bit of this pie, it could really help them out. Now this is pure speculation, I don't know this to be true, but I am invested in this company for the long term, and I'll probably be posting a video on this sometime soon, and if you want to see that video, make sure to leave a like down below, and if we can get 100 likes, I'll make that happen. And that's pretty much all I got for you today on the 3 best stocks to buy for March 2021. And before I go, I want to say thank you to all my patrons for their support. And if you want to join my patron list, I'll have a link down in the description below where you'll get access to live Q&A and trading sessions each week, price analyses for the stocks that I'm watching, and also I'll help you with some price analysis on the stocks you're interested in. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of this video. And as always, remember to stay positive, stay green. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye guys.